Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror sci-fi film, Frankenstein. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. A ship drifts on the sea during a raging storm. They suddenly see a huge iceberg in front of them. They rush to turn the ship but fail, and the ship gets stuck on the ice. Morning arrives, and the captain tells his men to cut the boat loose. However, one of his men tells him that this is futile work and may even be the cause of the mutiny. Nevertheless, the captain insists that they continue on their way to the North Pole. Suddenly, a dark figure appears in the distance. The men aim at it with their weapons. However, the captain soon realizes that it is only a man. The man tells them to come with him and bring weapons, but the captain refuses. The dogs manage to break free and run away, but not for long, as the humanoid monster chasing the stranger kills them quickly. Terrified, they all run back into the ship. Inside, the stranger introduces himself as Victor Frankenstein. Victor learns about the captain's quest to find the North Pole and claim it for glory, but he warns him not to continue. As a cautionary tale, Victor starts telling the captain of his own vain quest for glory. The flashback begins with Victor as a young boy. He is dancing with his mother when the door opens, and a young girl named Elizabeth enters. Victor's mother tells him that Elizabeth's parents have died, and that she will become Victor's foster sister instead. Time passes, and Victor grows. His mother gets pregnant as well. After reminding him that life shouldn't just be about studying, she grabs his notes and forces him to dance with her. Victor ends up having fun, but his mother suddenly collapses. She goes into labor and tries to give birth, but to no success. Instead, she tells her husband to cut the baby out to save it. The baby gets saved, but Victor's mother dies in the process. Victor and Elizabeth suddenly hear their father screaming. They rush to him and learn that their mother is dead. 3 years pass, and Victor visits his mother's grave. He vows to find a cure that can prevent people from dying. He is making a machine to this end, but gets interrupted by Elizabeth. She convinces him to take a break and join them outside. Victor agrees, but brings his machine with him. While playing outside, a large thundercloud appears over them. Victor starts setting up his machine, while the rest of the group get worried. He then invites them all to lie on the ground around the machine. They wait for lightning to strike. When the lightning strikes the machine, it sends the electricity safely through their bodies. They curiously play with the electricity. That night, a going-away party is held for Victor, who will leave to study medicine. Victor's father gives him an empty journal left behind by his mother, so that he may record his studies and travels. While the party continues inside, Victor and Elizabeth dance outside. They are about to kiss, but stop themselves. They talk about their relationship, and Victor proposes to Elizabeth. She agrees and tells Victor that she will wait for him. They tongue massage passionately. Victor leaves the next day and sets up his laboratory in the attic of an inn. Later that day, he goes to class and ends up challenging his professor's beliefs that medicine is purely science. Class ends, and Victor walks out of the building. He is chased by Henry, one of his classmates, who quickly becomes his friend. Victor asks why the professor was glaring condescendingly at another professor during the lecture. Henry informs him that the other professor is named Waldman. He adds that Waldman earned the professor's anger by carrying out illegal and immoral experiments in the past. Victor continues with his studies, while regularly sending letters to Elizabeth back home. However, when Elizabeth reads the letters to the family, she intentionally omits their relationship to keep it a secret. One day, Victor and his professor get into another argument. Victor argues that life does not stop after death. He adds that hair and nails grow even after one is dead. He mentions that even Professor Waldman disagrees with him. After class, Victor is pulled to the side by Waldman. He quickly apologizes and tells Waldman that he only wants to discover new science to save everyone's lives. Waldman invites Victor and Henry over to his office. There, Waldman tells Victor about the Chinese belief in acupuncture. He adds that electricity streams are key to life. He then unveils a severed hand hooked up to an electric source. He turns on the electricity and the hormone let-go hand moves. Both Victor and Henry touch the hand, but the hand suddenly clutches and traps Henry's hand. Waldman quickly tries to turn the machine off, but to no avail. Fortunately, Victor quickly thinks of a solution and manages to help Henry free his hand. Waldman agrees to let Victor help in his experiments. While eating dinner, Henry and Victor talk about organ transplants with Waldman. Victor guesses that if organ transplants can be done, then life can be created from scratch. He also finds out that Victor once tried to create a human from scratch, but ended up creating an abomination. One day, the city is hit with a cholera outbreak. While trying to help administer vaccines, Waldman is stabbed and killed by a peasant that refuses to get his vaccine shot. Victor and Henry quickly try to save him, but Waldman dies anyway. The killer is hanged in the town square. Afterward, Victor breaks into Waldman's office to check his research notes. After reading, he gets a wild idea. He sneaks out to the town square and retrieves the killer's body. Unable to convince Henry to help him, Victor continues with his experiments the following day. After cutting the killer's body into pieces, Victor breaks into the morgue. He takes Waldman's brain from its body and saws off a leg from a dead classmate. Victor also collects bodily fluids from a pregnant woman. He injects it into a dead frog, which immediately comes back to life. He sews up the body and prepares for the experiment. He falls asleep on the floor and later wakes up to hear Henry knocking on his door. Henry tells him that they must leave since the cholera outbreak has gotten worse. But Victor refuses, as he is still obsessed with his experiment. Victor walks away, but stops upon hearing Elizabeth's voice outside. Worried about Victor as he is no longer sending letters, Elizabeth has come to visit him. He heartlessly sends her away, but Elizabeth demands to see him. Victor concedes and lets them in. Elizabeth smells the dead body and tries to investigate, but Victor violently pulls her away from the lab. He tells her that he has work that he cannot abandon and sends her away. Elizabeth runs out crying. That night, Victor begins the experiment. He submerges the body in a tank and uses electric eels to run electricity through it. Its eyes open for a second, but quickly close. Thinking his experiment failed, Victor walks away in frustration. Suddenly, the tank starts shaking violently. He runs back and opens the tank, which explodes from the pressure. He peers inside, and the creature leaps out of the tank. Victor tries to get it to stand, but fails. When he finally gets it to stand, he slips and lets go of the creature, which falls back onto a pulley. The creature is pulled into the ceiling and gets an anvil dropped on its head. As Victor stares at it, he regrets his curiosity and decides to burn his research notes so that the experiment may never be done again. The following morning, Victor wakes up and is terrified to see the creature alive and standing by the window. He runs away as it chases him. While he goes to get an axe, the creature steals his coat and escapes the lab. While wandering around town, the creature tries to steal bread. He is stopped by villagers who see his horrifying appearance and blame him for spreading cholera. He gets attacked and chased around town. He gets cornered, but manages to escape by flipping a cart and throwing around villagers with his superhuman strength. He hides in an alley and later jumps onto a cart loaded with dead bodies. Once the cart exits town, he jumps off and hides in the forest nearby. Victor wakes up to find Henry feeding him medicine. Henry soon leaves, but Victor suddenly hears Elizabeth playing the piano outside his room. They quickly see and run to each other. Elizabeth forgives him. Meanwhile, the creature wanders around the forest. It finds a house and quickly hides in the stable just as someone comes out. There it takes a bite out of the pig's food. It also finds Victor's journal in the coat. However, it cannot read yet and instead decides to fall asleep. When it wakes up, it peeks into the house and sees the married couple inside, worrying about the family's money and food. It watches as the couple harvest a frozen field to no avail. Touched by their struggle, the creature decides to harvest the fields later that night. It leaves the crops outside the house for the family to find in the morning. The family does not know who left the crops, so the children believe that a good spirit from the forest has sent it. Time passes, and the creature stays in hiding in the stable. It eventually learns to speak and read by listening and watching the family inside. The following day, the family leaves flowers and food outside the house as an offering to the spirit, which the creature gladly takes. At the same time, Victor prepares to go home to Geneva, his hometown. He has just been engaged to Elizabeth as well. Victor asks Henry to come with him as a partner in his father's business. One day, the daughter from the cabin runs into an evil debt collector who quickly grabs her. Her blind grandfather hears the commotion and tries to attack the debt collector, but misses and falls. The girl runs to the forest to call her family for help. Suddenly, the creature emerges from the stable and kills the debt collector. The grandfather invites him in and thanks him. They talk, and the creature tells him that everyone is afraid of him since he is ugly. The grandfather feels his face to map his appearance. Just as the two share a wholesome moment, the family enters the house. Assuming that the creature is the culprit, they attack him and force him out despite the grandfather's objections. The creature runs to the forest and cries. It decides to show the family a flower offering as proof of its innocence. But when he returns, he finds that the family has already left the cabin for good. The creature reads Victor's journal and learns of the circumstances of his creation. He burns the cabin down and swears revenge on Victor for making him look so ugly that no one will love him. The creature begins his journey to Geneva. Back in Geneva, Victor's younger brother wanders into the forest. There he meets the creature, who quickly kills him and steals his locket. The entire household looks for the missing brother, including the maid, who ends up falling asleep in a cabin not far from the mansion. As she sleeps, the creature places the locket on her body to frame her for the brother's death. Not long after, Elizabeth finds the brother's body. The following day, a policeman arrives and tells Victor that they have already caught the maid. Believing that the maid is innocent, Victor and the two rush to the jail to help her. However, they find a mob of villagers determined to hang the maid for murder. The maid is brought out and dragged up the village walls. She is hanged and dies unjustly as her family and employers watch. Victor returns to the house, but is stopped by the creature, who tells him to meet him by the mountains. The next day, Victor leaves for the mountains with a gun, without explaining to Henry and Elizabeth what is happening. At the top, he is ambushed and pushed off a cliff by the creature. He lands in an underground cave where the creature admits that it killed Victor's brother. It adds that it wants a female friend like himself, with who it can spend its life at the North Pole, far away from humans. Victor agrees to his request. He returns home and prepares the experiment. Angry at Victor for keeping her in the dark, Elizabeth packs her stuff and gets ready to leave. The creature digs up the maid's body to use in the experiment, but Victor gets disgusted at this and refuses to continue. So the creature threatens to kill Elizabeth. Nevertheless, Victor runs out of the lab and chases after Elizabeth. Elizabeth agrees to stay on the condition that they get married today, and Victor tells her the truth tomorrow. They hold the marriage ceremony later that day. Afterward, they leave the house for their safety. Unfortunately, they miss the ship and are forced to wait until the morning for the next one. They spend the night at a nearby inn. After inspecting the perimeter, Victor heads to his room. There, he and Elizabeth kiss without using their tongues. They quickly remove each other's clothes for a smelly workout. Suddenly, Victor stops. He grabs his gun and runs outside. However, he quickly notices that the window to their room is open, revealing that the creature is already inside. The creature gets on top of Elizabeth and caresses her face. Just as Victor and his men force the door open, the creature rips out Elizabeth's heart and kills her. It then jumps out of the window as the men try to shoot it. Grief-stricken, Victor carries her body back home and tries to bring her back to life. Henry realizes what he is about to do, but fails to stop him. Victor cuts up Elizabeth's body and later sews her back together. He brings her body to the tank and begins the process of bringing her back to life. As with the creature, Victor succeeds. He lifts her body out of the tank and dresses her, making her look sexy. Victor asks her to say his name, but she doesn't reply. She stands and dances, and Victor leads her into a dance. Suddenly, the creature appears in the laboratory. The creature calls the reanimated Elizabeth over, and she comes to him. The two men both call her over, but Elizabeth goes to the creature. However, she notices her own stitches and looks at her terrible self in the mirror. She begins saying Victor's name, but the creature grabs her and stops her. They fight over her, but she breaks free. Distressed over her horrifying image, Elizabeth grabs a lamp and smashes it over her head, therefore lighting herself on fire. Elizabeth runs away and they chase after her, but she falls down the stairs and dies. The house burns down. The flashback finally ends. Victor is back in the captain's room. He tells the captain how he followed the creature's trail north, trying to kill him and earn revenge. However, he admits that he is tired and immediately falls asleep. One of the men asks the captain what Victor told him, but the captain merely tells him that Victor is dead after having told an unbelievable story. The captain tells them that they have to continue north, but the man refuses. Suddenly, a loud noise is heard from inside the ship. The captain and his men inspect the source and find the creature sitting beside Victor's body. The captain asks him who he is, but the creature replies that he wasn't given one. He cries silently, mourning the death of his creator. They read him his funeral rites outside and lit his body on fire. However, the ice breaks and the men fall into the water below. The captain scrambles to return to the ship and even invites the creature to come with them, but he refuses, saying that he is done with humans. The creature swims away with the torch and manages to light Victor's body on fire. He stays on the ice with Victor's body, letting himself burn and die along with his creator. The captain and his men watch as they burn. This and Victor's story of obsession with glory finally convince him to turn back and leave the hell-like exploration at once. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.